Get my mic working. How's everybody doing? It's a nice day in the Midwest, so I expect everybody to be outside doing their thing. So you can just catch the replay. It's been a rough, long weekend, a long week, just trying to make a few things happen. So we about to start shortly. I'm sure most people are going to catch it on the replay. Once again, you know how we do it. If you have any cybersecurity questions, just throw them in the chat. There we go. I just want to make sure my shows up on my phone. So we're just gonna jump right into it. Probably get it started. I didn't do any videos this week. I just was kind of studying for my AWS and getting it going. So no big deal. You see it working with Windows and CLI systems. Once again, starting from a computer forensics standpoint, um, just want to touch on a different domain in cybersecurity, forensics. Once you get hacked, you got to find who hacked it, how much they hacked, how they hacked it, close that vulnerability, and hopefully take the bad guys to court. So just gonna go through these slides. Whoever falls in, once again, falls in. So long story short, the power in my office is out, so I'm in my living room. Somebody comes in, let me know if there's an echo or something. I don't, I don't hear an echo, but just let me know. So, screen knock it on out. So we're gonna talk about the structures of file systems, especially Microsoft. There's a lot of Windows stuff in. We're gonna talk about Ntfs, decrypting drives that are encrypted with the whole disk encryption. Talk about Windows Registry, Microsoft Startup Task, and what is the purpose is a virtual machine. So that's going to be it today. So file system gives an OS a roadmap to the data on the disk. Type of file systems an OS is used to determine how data is stored on the disk. When you need to access a suspect's computer to acquire and inspect the data, you should be familiar with both the computer OS and the file systems, right? If they're hiding files, or trying to delete files, or trying to hide files in Slack space, what would that look like, right? So, uh, complement- complementary metal oxide semiconductor, aka CMOS. That's an old term. Computer storage, system configuration and data, and time information in CMOS. When the when power to the system is off, basic input and output system BIOS or extensible firmware interface EFI contain programs that perform input and output at the hardware level. So when you booting up a computer, right, those things are getting read. Basic input is setting up your file system, how is it going to read and how it's going to interact, right? That's standard. I think a lot of people work on servers. They just take that for granted that it's magical, right? So part of that is the bootstrap contained in ROM, right? Tells computer how to proceed, displays the keys or keys you press to open up the CMOS setup screen. CMOS should be modified to the boot from a forensic floppy disk or a CD or USB now, right? So those are things happen when you boot it up. So that's what it looks like a lot of times when you uh, typically boot up a CMOS machine. It's kind of like gray. It looks like the old mainframe screen, right? So you boot it up. That's what it looks like. You got the system date and time. Configuration depends on what type of drive. System information. You got advanced. What do you want to do? Power it up. Boot protocol, and they have some tools in there. In the old days, you used to see if your disk got fragmented or something. So those tools were in there. Right now, that's kind of built into a lot of the servers and how they operate. So disk drives are made up of one or more platters coated with magnetic material. Disk drive components are geometry, heads, tracks, cylinders, and sectors. I think they got a little. picture coming up with that little illustration comes up. Like once again, we just kind of take that for granted and it runs. You got multiple heads right there, right? Just kind of happens magically. Like a lot of people think it's magic. It's really not magic, but that's really what it looks like. Now though, you gotta remember there's football fields of SATA drives and hard drives when you go up in the cloud, right? So that's a whole different ball game. But that's what it looks like. Um, so if you took them 32 more from a server perspective tracks, 32 rewrite heads, the cylinders, right? 32 heads, 63 sectors. That's what it looked like, right? When you open up a computer and you actually open up the disk drive and actually tear them apart, that's actually what it looks like, right? So we were joking in the metaverse, you would tap on it and you would get this Tony Stark 3D representation of that flying in the air, right? So that's what it's going to look like, hopefully in the future. So properties handled at the drives, hardware, firmware level, zone bit recording, ZBR, track density, area density, and head and cylinder skew, right? So let's go back to there. So all flash memory devices have a feature called wear leveling, an internal firmware feature used in solid state drives and ensure even wear of rewrite for all memory cells. When dealing with solid state devices, make a full forensic copy as soon as possible. It's crucial in case you need to recover the data from an unallocated disk space, right? How are you doing, Person Center Cyber? Glad you can join us. Just a Sunday forensic walkthrough. So from a Microsoft file structures, sectors are grouped in form clusters, storage allocation units for one or more sectors. Clustering ranges from 512 to 32,000 bytes. Combining sectors and combining sectors minimizes the overhead of writing and reading to files. What's up before the billions? So yeah, so um, once again, people just think when you read data off servers, just magical. Once again, we just looked at the platter of the disk, we looked at the sectors of it, and how it operates really from that level, right? I don't. A lot of people don't really know what they're like because when you're on Amazon or Azure, right, they got football fields of disk space and that. So clusters are numbered essentially from 0 to 1 in Ntfs. First sector's file disk contains a system area with a boot record and a file storage. The operating system assigns a cluster number called a logical address. Sector numbers are called physical address. Clusters, their address are specific to a logical disk with a disk partition. So I think they got a picture of that coming up. Hope you're doing. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. B2B, just trying to make a few things happen. It's warm in the Midwest, so I can't complain. I was checking out your stream from the cloud, so it's going pretty good. Man. So the partition is a logical drive. I was actually old enough where when you actually set up servers, you actually have to format them and set up the type of partitions and all that on Windows servers. So even Linux servers. So we used to actually do that when I was at DoD. What's up, Wayne Wallace? So like I said, it's just something people don't do. But once again, we're talking about forensics. So if you were actually doing forensics on a computer, you might actually have to look at the raw partition to see if somebody deleted something or was trying to hide something. Once again, when you're working in the cloud, all that stuff is set up for you. When you spin up a VM inside Amazon, all that stuff gets set up for you, right? So the Windows OS can have three primary partitions, followed by extended partition that can contain one or more logical drives. The hidden partition avoids large unused gaps between partitions on a disk. Partition gaps are unused space between the partitions. And they're going to show that in between that space a lot of times, you can have credit card information and try to steal it, right? So in the partition table, there's a master boot record located on sector 0 of the drive. In a hexadecimal editor index, you can find a first partition on 01BE. The file system hexadecimal code is offset 3 bytes from 0 button E for the first partition. Let's see. I need to make that bigger. That's hard to read. But if you look in the boxes down there, it's showing you the 1BE first partition right here. Let's see, 1BE is then after that is the second partition is CE, DE, and 1EE, right? So when you set up those partitions, once again, you setting up your drive to be writable, and that's where certain data go. And then when you set up databases, you can tell them which partition you will write to and how you would do it and where you wanted to write. In the old days, especially in Oracle, you had to spread your data off of 12 spindles. You actually had to do that manually. Why? Because you didn't want it to be hotspots on your disk. Right? Hotspot means um, everybody's trying to get the same platter in the same sector, right? So it would have to go through that centrally. If you spread it out among 12 disks, right, then it could do it in parallel. Professor Black Ops at gmail.com, Wayne Wallace. Professor Black Ops at gmail.com. You see my name up there, just put a at gmail.com and you can get at me. I've been a little late. I got to do a better job on my email. Uh, but put it out there. I usually get back within 48 hours. That's what I try to do. I've been slacking. Um, I've been slacking lately. So, examining the FAT, which stands for File Allocation Table, a file structure database that Microsoft originally designed for floppies. It's typically written in disk outermost track and contains file names, directory names, date and time, starting point in the cluster, and the file attribute. The current ones are FAT 1632 and extended FAT used for mobile devices. Cluster size vary according to the hard drive size and the file system. Right? Is it similar to a disk array? Yep, exactly like a disk array, JM. Exactly like a disk array, right? Even though it's old school, that's still what, especially what Windows using today. I think a lot of times people cheat because they actually put it on VMware. So you're actually running Unix, but they're actually running a Windows OS inside of a Unix partition to try to uh, overcome some of those issues, JM. But now it's exactly like a disk array. So if you see the sectors, sector 1 is 512, 1, 2, 4K, 16. Right. Once again, when you go up in the cloud, once again, a lot of this is pre-set up for you. When you pick your software as a service, um, Aurora, SQL Server, whatever, all that stuff's pre-set up for you behind the scenes, right? And they're doing this for you. Peace, Helmet. Glad you could make it. Salute. So yeah, so like I said, just going over some raw part. Uh, Microsoft also allocates disk space for files by the cluster. Results in drive slack, unused space in the cluster between the end of an active file content and the end of the cluster. Drive slack includes RAM slack and file slack. An unintentional side effect of 16s allowing large clusters was that reduced to fragmentation as a cluster size increased. Right? So as you do it, it's going to take off a 1K block or a 2K block or 4K block. You tell it how big you want the block. If you don't use all that block and the next byte or information is bigger than that block, it's going to start a new block. So that's where you get that unused slack and unused space, right? Those are super old terms. So I think from forensics, you would need that. So it shows you the end of file marker there, slack space of 110, end of 10 sector 512, file slack of 27, right? So I used to do access database. So in the access database, you wanted to take up the whole sector, right? So you would make your table length that big. So as you wrote through your table, you wouldn't spread your table out among blocks, right? Once again, super old term for that. So when you run out of room on the allocated space, it allocates another cluster of your file. As the file grows, you require more space assigned to a cluster and a chain together. The chain can be broken or fragmented. When the OS stores data in a file system, it assigns a starting cluster point. Data for the file is written to the first sector. Right. So in the old days, when you used to rewrite, you used to actually go back and say de declutter your disk drive, meaning taking all those chains and trying to make them one continuous cluster, right? It's called defragmenting your hard drives, right? Once again, the uh, the cloud guys do that in the back of the scene. In the old days, we used to have to do it ourselves, right? So each one of these clusters, right? Because you start deleting and writing records, right? So you start getting all this chain. So declutter means it will go through and try to write it all in one sector and make it all clean and smooth, right? So once again, an old term, but when you're doing forensics, that's the stuff you're looking for on the disk to figure out if it's hide something or somebody tried to delete something. So it shows you the chain of sectors associated with the cluster of the files increase, right? 6 totals, 1 fragmented. When the first assigned cluster is filled and run out of room, FATs assign the next available cluster to the file. If the next available cluster isn't continuous, the current cluster becomes fragmented. So fragmented means there's files written all around the disk. So as it reads, it's got to jump all around the disk. That's going to slow it down, right? So when you defragment it, it tries to make it one smooth sector so you won't have to jump around, right? Once again, fragmentation is probably an old thing. Like I said, something when I was younger. So when you delete those 5 files, directory entry is marked as deleted with the hex file character replaced the first letter of the file name. File chain for the file is set to 0. Data for the file is renamed on the disk. Area of the disk where deleted becomes unallocated disk space available to receive new data from newly created file or other files needing more space. But until that happens, right, you can actually go into your wastebasket and retrieve it, right? Because that means it has not been overwritten and it's still there to retrieve, right? So when a lot of people say they deleting files, they're doing that. They're marking it for deletion is putting it in the first space of the character. But if you go into your wastebasket, right, you can undelete it. And there's ways inside Unix to actually pull those files back too. So Ntfs is Windows NT is part of your Windows 10 system too. It's improvement over FAT, provides more information about the file, gives more control over the files and folders. Microsoft moves towards a journaling file system. It records a transaction before the system carries it out. And then inside an NTFS file system, once again, now the clusters are bigger, right? They're like 512, 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabyte to terabyte, all the way up to 128 to 26 terabytes, right? So those bigger spice, bigger tracks you can get to. Um, the MFT contains information about all files on the disk, includes the system file as OS. The first 15 records are reserved in the file system. It's recorded in MTFS. It's called metadata. What metadata is information about the disk and the data that's on that disk, right? So in 0, it's the base file record for each folder on NTFS volume. 1 is the first 4 records of NTFs are saved. If a single sector fails in the first, the record can be restored. The second position is log file. Previous transactions are stored here to allow recovery of a system failure. So as you writing, it's writing each record out into the system in case it fails before you write it to the database or actually flush it to the disk. You'll be able to pull it off, right? So volume 3 is information specific for the volume, such as a label and a version. Other meta records, I'm just going to skim through these. The attribute definition, root file index name, the bitmap boot sector bad clusters. For clusters that have unrecoverable errors and entries and the cluster's location is made in the file. So there's a bad cluster out there. And make sure you won't be able to write to it, right? It's going to take it out the table for you to write to it. Security file. Unique security description for the volume are listed in the file. It's where the access control list is maintained for all files. Read, write, access. Does it inherit it from somewhere else? All that's in there. Uppercase NTFS extensions, and 12 to 15 is reserved for future use, right? So if somebody try to damage a file, you can go into this location and hopefully put the right things there. You can recreate your metadata and hopefully get to the data that somebody tried to damage. What's up, CKC? In the Ntfs MFT, all files and folders are stored in separate records. Each record contains files and folders. This information is divided into records fields containing metadata. Record field is referred to as attribute ID. A file or information is chemically stored in one or two ways: resident and non-resident. Right. So, and once again, they're going to show a picture of that. Actually, I appreciate this, CKC. um, The file larger than 512 is stored outside the MFT. Record provides cluster addresses where the file is stored. This is referred to as data runs. Each MFT record starts with a header identifying as a resident or non-resident attribute. Right. So once again, just talking about the raw file, how it's saved, how really this is what the big cloud vendors set that up for you. You know, when you spin up your EC2 behind the scenes, right? All this gets pre-set up for you, right? Then you start VMing those big servers, but behind the scenes, when you write to the disk, this is what it is. I appreciate it, man. So that's it. So I need to make this bigger. So it tells you where those are acted on the sector, standard information, attribute list, file name, object ID, once again, security descriptor, volume name, volume information, index root, and index right. So from the security descriptor is the ACLs, read, write, inheritance, who can view it, right, and who actually owns that object. Right, so that can be changed. That's a little better. At least you can read it. Once again, bitmap again, read parse point, log utility stream, file used by encrypted file system in Windows 2000 or later. Right. So those are in the table. We know it's metadata. I appreciate that, CKC. Can forensic people recover data from a disk that has been degaused? Professor, if it's DOD degaussing, that's a no. If it's regular degaussing, probably yes. Federal degaussing, it goes through and write zero and ones over your disk 7 times, and it actually goes in this table and erase things. Jay, I've seen people sell degaussing stuff that didn't do it properly from a DoD or NIST standard. Then I can actually pull data back from that. So traditional degaussing, once again, if it's federal level, no, because it's going to write zero and one on the entire disk array 7 times, and it's going to go inside that boot record, everything, and it's going to delete everything. Basically, it's going to when you do degauss at the federal level, it's basically reformatting your drive almost, right? It's doing everything but format. It's going to write zeros and one over everything 7 times. It's going to go over into the MFT and a master boot record, and it delete stuff and reset it. But like I said, Jam, I seen people say it was degaussed, but whoever wrote the degaussing didn't do it properly. But if you're talking at federal level and it's approved by the government, no, you cannot get that data back. Once again, it's showing you on the disk. If you look at there, it's showing you the start, the different attributes you were looking at. So it's pointing you where on the disk you were looking at, right? This is the ASCII table on the right, and it shows you where they all are at on the disk where you would look at, right? So from a forensics perspective, and if you and they're going to name some programs out there, they're going to point these out there for you so you know where they're at if you needed to reset them, restart them, or try to get a pointer back to some point at some information that was deleted. Right? So once again, I'm just doing some high level forensics. A lot of people don't talk about forensics. I like to do different security domains here. Like I said, I think it's an 8-week class. I think we're on week 5. So 3 more weeks, and we'll get back to Amazon. I'm studying for my test, so I've been doing a little Amazon work. So that's why I didn't really do any videos this week. I've been setting up my Amazon 3-tier architecture, old school. So I'll probably walk through that on probably Thursday night. So we'll talk about it. Once again, the non-resident points start and end of the data runs we were talking about. So that points out the hexadecimal values of that in there, right? Then when you look at them through programs, the program is going to change them to ASCII so you can read them and set them right. I have a slightly damaged physical. Let me highlight these so they show up. Shout out to CKC for that. I was gonna see if I can pin it, but it's all good. Let's see. I have a slightly damaged physical hard drive. I'm trying to get it to read on my computer. Any tips? So when you slide, is it dented? Is it not spinning? Is it not reading? So when you say slightly damaged, is it not? Is it not reading, or you think it's damaging the platters? Different parts of the platters damaged. So the first question is it reading? Um, then we can go inside some of these tables and figure out if maybe the master boot record got damaged or is it not reading. So that's the first question. Yep, internal. So is it reading or not reading? That would be the question. Is and two is you can take the screws out. I would line them up and make not reading. Oh, that's not good. If it's ticking though, uh, if I've seen people do it, I'm not that good. You could take it somewhere. I don't think it would cost that much. If they take it apart, the a friend of mine took it apart. The part that was bent, the head was bent. He actually just took that off, right? So that disc couldn't be read anymore. But that was the part was keeping the rest from reading the rest of the drive. Because if you look, right, it was it's 32 heads lined up. So if one of them's bent in the middle, right, it's gonna stop the other 32 or 8 or whatever you have reading. So he actually took the one that was bent out and the rest of them started reading. So I would call somebody local and see what that would cost you. So yeah, the ticket side is one of the heads might be bent. So they could go on there and try to rebend it or just take the head out, then the rest of them might could read. So I would call somebody local, unless you want to try it. I don't do hardware like, but I see somebody do it where one of the heads was bent. They took the head out, and the rest of them could read. So I think he said it wasn't that expensive, but that's been 5 or 6 years ago since we were talking about that. So that's what I would do. I would remove it, try to hook it up externally. True. I would do CKC. The only thing I worry about is if he took it out, the heads are the heads in that drive are the ones ticking. So I don't still think it's going to be reading, even if he hooked it up externally. I don't think the computer's causing the problem. I think the drive itself is causing the problem. But I would try. It wouldn't hurt. Yeah, I would try to copy it. I just worry that the head inside the drive is what's causing the ticking. Where it's different if it was like something inside the computer was it. But like I said, I would give it a shot. When a disk is created in Ntfs file structure, the OS assigns local cluster drive. It assigns clusters called logical cluster number. It becomes the address that allow the MFT to link to non-resident files on the disk partition. When data is first written to a non-resident file, the ECN address is assigned to the file, becomes a virtual cluster number. Right. So when you spend stuff on the like I said, I'm on my Amazon kick, right? When you spend up Windows, it does all this stuff on the back end. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't do this on the back end because it does it one time, right? All those servers are, you just taking a VM off of huge servers. So all this clusters have been set up for them. They got it all lined up, right? So once you spin it up, right, you're just getting a VM or a piece of that server. Do you need a mechanical disk in a computer if you want to use a SSD drive? You don't, but most SSD drives a lot of time it's not temporary, but it's not all day. So when you do SSD drive a lot of time, it's only a certain size, jam. So once it gets filled up, it flushes it to a hard drive. Right. So the hard drive actually physical save it. I don't think the data gets sold on it. It gets read up in the SSD RAM on a boot. It stays in there a long time. But if you run a crap load of data, I think it's going to use the SSD RAM and flush it to a hard drive. That's how it works in the Oracle database. So I do a lot of SSD RAMs on Oracle databases. So when we run a billion records on SSD RAM, right, it reads it quick, gets to calculate it, then later on it'll flush it to the disk, right? So it's super quick because it's an SSD RAM for all our calculations. But when we flush a billion rows through it, it gets written to the hard drive after the fact, right? We don't care, right? Because we already done our calculations, right? So I think that SSD needs something to flush it through. So when you boot up, right, all the information gets read up in the SSD RAM, or some of it's pinned in on the SSD RAM for startup and boot. But I don't think it's big data doesn't get saved there all the time, Jam. I know, especially from an Oracle database perspective, because that's how we set up our SSD RAM. I'll try the option first. Thanks a lot. Let me know how that goes, man. That's why you got to do backups. Hell, you got to get them backup game on, man. You got to do those backup games. Mm. If all else fails, physically destroy for sure. Take it to the shop. Not option. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's it, man. You got to do them backups, man. I'm bad about that too, man. I had a 4-put drive that rail. You got to do them backups, man. I try to make sure you get them backups, man. True, man. Good luck. So let's see. We got that. We got it up on the cluster. Once again, we were looking at the offset 00. It's an MT record. 1C is the size of the Ntf. Offset is the length of the header. 32, the update sequence, where we stores 2 bytes of the first sector of the MFT, right? So that's when it boots it up. These are the things to do to keep it running. These are the things to make it happen, right? And once again, that shows you where they're at in hexadecimal on the drive. That shows you the MFT record identifier, the length, and the size of the MFT. Then in ASCII, the data swap with the data in INT, right? So that's what actually that hexadecimal gets written to there. Right? One time I had to do this in real life. We got a file from Canada. I usually back up on OneDrive. Facts, man. Facts, man. So yeah, I got to do a better job of that. I think I got a 10 terabyte USB drive, so I usually back up all my YouTube stuff to that. But so yeah, I try to have a couple because USB drives even they're just so cheap now. Even for that size, I think I paid $100 for it. It was some crazy amount, right? So. But that's it. No, quick story. I got a file from Canada, and there was a French umlaut, and the umlaut is not printable, so our system kept choking on. So I had to actually look in the ASCII tables to figure out what was in the hexadecimal was making our file choke. So even though we talking about MF records, the length and the size, sometimes you need to do that from a programming standpoint. You got to look in there and say, okay, did it get confused? Did it get confused coming on the wire? Whoever sent this something, did they send us some garbage that's choking our system? You can go into the ASCII files here and look at the raw data to figure out actually what that is, right? So once again, just hitting on some high level of computer forensics. A lot of people are not hip to that in the cybersecurity world. So I just like to touch on different things and just a couple more weeks. I like to do different domains, right? Then we get back to the ever more popular AWS. Everybody's doing AWS right now. So shout out to them. So I usually back up my backup crazy. I did. Come on, Helmet, you got to stay out. But I'm like that, man. I get hardware is so good now, it very rarely happens. So you just get used to it, especially at a corporate level. It's just really good. All I use the masters now, our SSD. The biggest one I could find is a terabyte from Samsung. Okay, okay. 8 terabytes, yeah, they're big. How much was it, man? Like I said, it's I get USBs, like 10 terabyte. I didn't spend that much money for it. So, like I said, that's what I use my stuff to back up on. Then I usually just keep it in my house unless it's got some financial records uh, on it or something, stuff for my son if something happens to me, right? That's in the bank file. So from the MFT structure for file data, once again, it shows where the attribute is at, the size of it, short create date, last modified date, last access date, record update, starting, long create date, last long modified date, long access date, right? So each one of those, once again, that shows the point in the platters, right? So from a forensics perspective, ooh, that's pricey, man. That's a lot of data, though. That's a lot of data. I think I got mine on sale. I think I got 10 terabytes for 200. I think I was at Staples here is one of those local chains. I think I caught them one of them Happy Sunday things. They were selling it off at 60% off because a lot of people don't buy them because they're so big. So I got mine off 700. Ooh, that's a lot. But that's a lot of data saving. So once again, the offset of the GUID, starting position of the GUID. For all the programmers, we use GUID as ID savers. Let me see. I can't see Gabe. I got to go over here. What's up, Gabe? I got to actually check you out on the YouTube studio. When I look at Restream, I don't see you. Shout out to Gabe. When professor, oh, that's years ago, man. Years ago, man. Probably 3 or 4 years ago. CKC. That's the cool thing when you buy them, man. You can keep them forever. I bought my 10 terabytes. I should go hold it up. But yeah, that's what I say about my YouTube stuff, man. I got to catch up with Gabe, man. He got nice intros and outros, man. Shout out to Gabe. Doing it big. I'm sure we chop it up soon. So once again, from a forensic standpoint, talking about the old school platters when you actually have to get it. So that'd be the start of the GUID part of the drives. This is the partition sector. Start up the resident data run, number of allocated bytes. But once again, when you go to Amazon or Azure, all this stuff is preset up for you. A lot of times, though, if somebody tries to delete something or do something to it, you can go inside the master boot record in MFT and try to recreate the file pointers if somebody's trying to hash something for you. Forensics are often overlooked until there's facts. The real issue with that is and I'll let Gabe chime in. I can't see his comments though, but like I said, I'm jumping over his from a business perspective, like I worked at DoD Federal, we don't keep that expertise on site. So if something gets hacked, the first thing we trying to do is contain it and make sure it doesn't delete it or something happened to our data. We need the forensic people to come in because a lot of compliance people want you to do a forensic analysis to figure out how you was hacked, when you was hacked, and confirm if something got stolen and sent out. SFTP or something, looking at logs to figure out something. That's forensic people. Right? From a compliance guy, I don't look at that. I look at it at a high level and I'm like, oh, it looks funny. You need to call the forensic people. So I'm shocked. Gabe, did Mandy have forensic people on staff? I guess y'all did probably. So yeah, so we usually outsource that type of talent because it's expensive, and hopefully we don't use it very often because hopefully we're not getting hacked a lot of times, so we wouldn't need forensic talent on staff, hopefully at all, right? So, but when we do, we outsource that talent. We have somebody local, then we would go to some of the big guys like Mandy at PwC or one of the other big guys. Once again, I work for a large state agency, a very large state agency. So we would outsource that talent and get it in. Actually, we did a incident response test, and we were trying to figure out, okay, if something happens, once we get it figured out, who are we going to call to do the forensics of it, right? Because the federal government says that thing we got to do a forensic analysis to make sure nothing gets stolen, and if it is, to verify how much got stolen, right? So an alternative data stream, waste data can be appended to existing files. We can obscure valuable evidentiary data intentionally or by coincidence. Ntfs, alternative data streams before an additional file attribute, allows the file to be associated with different applications. You can only tell whether a file is data stream attached by examining the MFT entry. All right, and actually we had to do that not from a forensic standpoint, but more from a programming standpoint. Somebody was doing some weird data stream, and I think he was actually doing an alternative data stream, and we couldn't figure out what was actually happening for him a little bit. So let's see. Struggle stream. Absolutely. Man, they have forensic foes, reverse engineering, analysts all on deck. So does Essential. When we sell those IR return services, come with all that expertise. No, that's facts, right? And two is I work for a state, so we don't have any of that talent on staff, right? And that's okay. I can see now. Um, man, yeah. And once again, and two is when that happens, especially as a government agency, if the nation state's being hacked, you need retainers with those companies because they're gonna start with the people on retainer first, right? So that's why a lot of times, like an attorney, you want to keep those firms on retainer. Why? Because if you get hacked and it's a nation state hack, a lot of times you gotta let the government know. You gotta let your attorney general know. You gotta let know HIPAA, FERPA, sieges for state police. You gotta let all those people know. So, um, what's up, Wally? Mm. Adrian in the house. So once again, they're showing you on a platter where that information's for those attributes are being housed. It shows you the hexadecimal, which I don't use a lot. The start date of the run shows you the hexadecimal platter. Right? Like it's again every couple years I gotta. How are you, cool, Adrian? Glad you can join me. Every now and then I have to break out the hexadecimal. I don't do that a lot. Um, like I said, once in a blue moon, I need it. The crazy thing, most people don't do hexadecimal anymore, like when I was younger. So, compressed files, Ntfs has compression. Windows 98, Windows 10 also has compression. Ntfs files, folders, and entire compression. I probably upgrade my slide deck later. Most computer forensics tool can uncompress and analyze compressed Windows data. Yeah, because most people compress for space depending on what they're doing. All right. So facts. We talked about that on the stream, Helmet. I don't think it's a good fit. I'll let Google/Alphabet buy and mandate it. For me, it's not a good fit. The reason why is Mandate is a button down enterprise organization, federal level, big company. Google's kind of this willy nilly, we super smart college dudes, man. So that's a weird purchase for me. So when you got money, you can make things happen though. Encrypting file systems on 2000 implement a public key and private key methods for encrypting file folders and disks. After that, recovery certificate is generated and sent to the local Windows administrators. Users can apply EFS to files stored on their local workstations or remote servers. The recovery key agents implement recovery certificate, which is the Windows administrator account. Can recover a key in two ways: by the cipher or the copying it. When the file is deleted on Windows NTS or later, the OS renames it and moves it to the recycle bin. You can use delete from MS-DOS command and eliminate the files from an MFT listing in the same way that FAT does. Because you got to remember, a lot of times when you delete files, you're just deleting your pointer, right? So let me get in the chat real quick. That's very true. On the public sector, I volunteered to the state of Michigan to respond to incident event of hack because of the budget to acquire and retain. Yeah, they long story short, where I work at, they trying to hire me. That would be a $40,000 pay cut for me to go work for the state. That would be a no. Shout out to them. Um, if I had a few more things in order, I would do it because I they told me within a year I could probably be chief information security officer of a small state agency. I just didn't want to take that pay cut. I mean, they struggle with yep, specifically Google purchase maybe a few weeks back. Yeah. So yeah, we chopped it up. Like I said, I didn't think it was a good purchase. Again, greetings, CKC. Let's see. I think it would be a good fit for them. Mm. What's up, Will? Good evening. Yeah, and we'll talk about that later. It's from especially I'm in the state of Indiana. The weird thing is they have problems because they have probably have six of the top seven technologies on the planet that I believe are on the planet that get paid. So when these young guys get 2 or 3 years of experience, they leave and double their salary. So the state struggle with it. So they got all the big databases, all the big SIMs in the cloud. So they got a lot of great technology. So when those guys, young guys, get 2 or 3 years experience, they can just go somewhere from a state perspective. So I always tell a lot of people is, and I let get not sure Alphabet. I always see them. I'll let Gabe chime in. I think it's easier to work for the state. I think you could get there a lot of skills, and after a couple years, leave and go kill it and make killer money. Because like I said, I'm in the state of Indiana. They're struggling to get top talent. The top talent they train and then they leave after 3 years, right? So that's kind of the cadence of that, which I don't blame those guys. Once you master one of the big dog technologies and you go out there and make that money. So about 10 years ago, I heard about a possible scare where everyone is using cheap USB cables that may have a uh, danger to people phone. Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah, I think I heard that. The cool thing is, depending on how you know, people change their phones so often now. CKC, I don't. They're not keeping them for extended amount of time. I feel like I change phones every couple of years. Either I'm old and I drop it, or something new comes out, or I crack the screen. So I don't think I keep phones very long. So not sure. Alphabet always seen that as something up their sleeve. That's true. That is true. I think one reason they're about mending is if you look at Microsoft and AWS, they got some of the top security talent on the planet, right? So if you having trouble on AWS, they send you a ton of people. So I think they got a ton of in-house cyber talent. Uh, I did a stream. Microsoft, I think, made 4 billion in security one year. It was some crazy amount. Like I know I take that back. I think it was 10 billion. It was some crazy amount. I just never think of Microsoft at that level of security. So I think Google's trying to get their security up because if you look at the Jedi contract and some other contracts coming out worth 10 billion and 5 billion, they getting that ready to give to cloud vendors. They're gonna spread that among all the cloud vendors. So I think Google's just want to make sure from a cybersecurity standpoint, they got that basis covered. So um, I'll do okay. You want to pay if I true? No, that is true. They're gonna have to bump up their salary. I mean, because we were talking about crazy amount of salaries. So it's just crazy amount of salaries out there. Once you get once you get your skill set out there and start making it happen. And once again, the state can't pay what the private sector pay. Small companies can't pay what mid-sized companies paid. And when you're trying to compete with the big boy fangs, they trying to pay you a lot and they trying to work you 12 hours a day. They're gonna feed you lunch, dinner, give you a massage at work because they don't want you to leave, right? So that's out there to get. So design different. So that's the resilient file system designs for very large data system. They said such as the cloud, maximize data availability, integrity, and scalability. Uses disk structure similar to MFT and Ntfs. Once again, like we talked about, when you spin it up in the cloud, it's similar to setting it up to that way. But once again, when you spin up your EC2 Windows, all that's pre-set up, right? You get your VM in there, and you just get humping, right? So this is real big. In recent years, whole disk encryption has been more concerned of loss, personal identity, information, and secrets, particularly concerning the thefts of laptops and computers and handhelds. To prevent loss of information, software vendors now provide whole disks, right? So in the Windows world, that's BitLocker, right? We usually do that for a whole disk. It's FIPS 140-2 federal approved. So if somebody steals your phone or your laptop, when they stuck it in, right, the keys are not going to be on the disk drive. The keys is going to be in your CMOS or your SD-RAM, so it won't be able to link with that drive. They can use the disk. They just got to format it, right, to write all that. If you format it though, right, as a security guy, I don't care, right, because the PI is gone, the nuclear trade secrets are gone, right. So all our disk, if you're in the government, has whole disk encryption, right? In case somebody steals your laptop or your phone. I hate when people say they have disk encryption inside a data center. I'm like, the odds of somebody sticking in and stealing your server is minuscule, right? So the current whole disk encryption offers full features. You get pre-boot authentication, full or partial disk encryption. We go for full. Advanced encryption algorithms, key management functions, whole disk encryption tools for each sectors for drive separately. Many tools encrypt the drive boot sector to prevent efforts to bypass the secure drive partition. So when you boot up, right, you're trying to get to the CMOS so you can skip the boot, right? All that's password protected. Any system you do from a federal level is going to have Bitlocker on it, right? Run a vendor specific program to decrypt the disk. Many vendors use a bootable CD or USB drive to boot to a one time passphrase, right? So if you want to get around it, right, you have to know the passphrase to get on it. So once again, that's from a security perspective and booting up. And once again, my man Gabe signed off on it. Bandy has a ton of forensic people. Most people don't talk about forensics in the cybersecurity world. I don't know if I would call it a hidden gem. Those guys get paid, but Gabe will tell you you got to be on a flight within 6 hours or 4 hours. You got to get there, right? The stuff in memory, you got to try to get it out. You got to try to secure the scene. You got to try to figure out what a nation state's done to it. That's a lot of pressure. I always say GRC is the hidden gem, but once again, forensics, security domains out there for you to get. So examining Microsoft Bitlocker, I should have known it was coming. So it's on everything. These slides are old, but it's on Windows 2010 still. TPN chip for encryption, BIOS trusted computer, partitions, BIOS configuration, right? So when you boot, what you can see, right? So all that's part of that forensic life. Like I said, I do a little bit. I do enough to say, hey, we need to call somebody else who's looking funny, right? So once again, it's a domain inside cybersecurity. So some available third parties, endpoint, voltage security, jet code, bass encrypt. I usually just use because I don't do a ton of it. I just usually use the Microsoft tool set of what that is. I'm trying to get re, repatriated at the moment. All facts, repatriated at the moment. Understanding the Windows Registry. I don't know. I don't even go into the registry very often. Now, when I think about database that stores hardware and software configurations, view the registry programs on Windows. It's on 2000 Windows 10. The registry goes in there. When the software goes in, it writes in the registry where its programs at, where it's looking at. Sometimes it writes keys in there for it to be read on boot up. I don't program very much anymore. I'm going to start programming more since I'm studying for the AWS certification. So I probably look at DevOps. Cybersecurity is yeah, facts. That's why I try. James is correct. I just try to touch on different domains. It's just not networking. It's just not programming. It's just not database. Each one of those actually have a cybersecurity part. Red team, blue team, purple team, offensive, defensive, application security. Right? There's just so many things out there, right, for you to get. Right. So part of the registry, register editor, H key, sub key, branch. I used to do a lot of registry when I was doing more Java programming. I don't think I do a lot of that from a cybersecurity perspective. True that. A lot of it's changing these days, though. I've been a part of incidents where we remotely deploy forensic agents to infected machines for the comfort of our homes. That's cool. And I think a lot of things are going more remote, right? Two is a lot of times the data centers are connected. They already have it set up from RDP to Bash and host for you to get on and do that work. Then we do our analysis from home. You can use products like Carbon Black, Trend Micro to collect forensic data. No, that's true. We do a little Trend Micro every now and then. We usually do it not from a forensic state, but some's looking funny, so we do it from that. Once again, if we think it's forensics, we're gonna get the experts in, like Gabe. File registry location, it shows you the user account data, the 32, where it's loading at, system settings, account management. security settings, software, like we talked about, data files. Like when I was doing a lot of Java, I was in the registry a lot. It writes a lot of stuff to the registry for the Java setup. That shows you the registry file. If you do regedit, those it comes up. So we're usually in the current user and local machines a lot. Class root a little bit. So that shows you what it looks like. Just started learning about encryption as a cloud module, but I'm struggling. Is that anyone that can direct me to the material how to design and encrypt using Python? Uh, what are you trying to encrypt using What are you trying to encrypt, Wilt? Are you trying to use the modules inside Python to encrypt your data before you write it into on the disk or the file system? Because when I do encryption, a lot of times I set it up in a database to do all the encryption in the database, and I don't really have to worry about doing it on my in my code. So, are you trying to use the encryption module in Python and write encrypting it on the drive or in the database? People why are lots of cyber people now advertising and cryptographing cyber? They pay whatever. I think people are scared of that cryptography engineering cannabis. That's a ton of mathematics. That's a ton of studying. That's a ton of and two is to be honest, is the government signs off on a cryptography, we can use engineering cannabis. So I just use what they sign off on. So I could use Bitlocker. It's going to encrypt the file. Oracle has an advanced option you can buy that does all that for you. Same thing with SQL Server. So I think from a mathematical standpoint, it just super hard. I think that's why engineering cannabis. I'm renting some partition to script to collect security related info and do analysis with the tools while it's lit. So, um, yeah, I need to. My buddy writes more PowerShell. I usually write corn shell for the Unix. I'm started using a cloud formation, and I think inside cloud formation, I'm gonna have to shell out to PowerShell for some of the more delicate things I want to write in the future, Gabe. So I think I'm gonna have to get on my PowerShell. I've been lazy. Hopefully in the future our computers will be virtual machines. But the thing is, shout out to Tam is somebody's got to do the host to get on the virtual machine. Somebody got to do that bare metal setup to do the bare metal setup to get your hypervisor on there, right? So you can VM it. So somebody's got to do that initial setup, Jazz. Those dudes get paid because they doing the initial setup for you to VM it. So somebody's got to do that first setup of the big machine so we can VM it. Shout out to Women in Linux, Tam. She's always talking about that big metal. I have text and encrypted and sent it to a person to decrypt. How to encrypt and transit? Well, theoretically, if you can send it over SFTP if it's on a Linux box. You can do a WinSCP client and just push it over there. You can upload you could do keys or you could do it in a password. Then that would send in an encrypted tunnel. So you actually, that's what we do with file. We encrypt the bank file, then we set up an SFTP. We change host keys, and I'm actually doing that in on AWS. Well, and I'm gonna show that probably online in a couple of weeks. I'm setting up an EC2 copy of Amazon Linux 2. Then from my house, I got Windows SCP set up. So when I do it, that transmission is actually encrypted. I actually did it with public and private keys, so I won't have to use a password. Then part of that in encryption, when I send the file, I use PGP. Now GPG is an open source version. I encrypt the file in that before I SCP it over to the Linux system. So I'll probably be showing that online. Um, so yeah, you was if it's in I'm a Linux guy, so if you set up in Linux, you automatically get the server portion of the SCPs built into Windows. So when you set up WinSCP, it's going to send all that traffic over for you encrypted, Wilton. I think you can even do the security analysis on virtual machines memory. Oh yeah, you can. AWS actually has some tools to do that. If you wanted to do it on on your virtual machine, they're actually looking at. I wouldn't call it forensics, but you can dump the memory. You can look at it. You can see CPU usage. Then they have guard duty. it'll look at the TPT if it thinks it's a threat actor doing it. So AWS gives you a few things out the box to do that. Yeah, man, I have had a I have a bit of my what's up with Cryptov bigger bag. That's a big bag, but that's a heavy lift bag. I want none. I'm gonna let engineering cannabis hang on that. I want none of that cryptography, man. Okay, what you think of cryptography? I just use it. Like once again, I use PGP approved by the government, GPG, Oracle Advanced, SQL Server Advanced, PGP if you want to pay $5 grand a server, GPG if you want to use something free. Between that, WinSCP with the keys. Between those 5 products, I can do anything I needed to do from that. PGP has a GUI thing. Oh, it sounds like the Queen's name that you can actually click on the file and encrypt it for you from a GUI thing. But check out PGP and GPG. I use AWS. I do all my web browser on my virtual machine, but I do keep my important information on my main computer. Yeah, facts. I do. Yeah. Long story short, I'm trying to do all my stuff from the command line. So when I connect, I'm gonna do my secure copy when I move files. I'm gonna hopefully start and stop. I'm gonna start and stop instances with the command line. Um, but no, that's what I've been doing, James. Like I said, I'm setting up a couple of labs. Um, I'm setting up a couple architectures on AWS that are 3-tier that are government approved. So I'm hopefully step through those like a lab. So let me read a couple of these. So that was the registry, the class root, current, local, and H user. Current user symbolic links to that contains information about installed software and hardware. Like I said, when I used to do Oracle and Java, it installs your local machine and your users. Currently logged on users and only one key to the H key for that current user, right? So that's the current config of that. Send data. We're just registry settings most people use, right? Tools built in and add on registry, X-Way Forensics, OS, Forensic Explorer, FTK. So when I talk to this class, let me unhide it. We use FTK the most, so but it's different tools. I feel like Gabe said he used certain tools just for that. So that shows you the user dat file, especially from Outlook. You can do the keys and data, right? Because when you do Outlook, which I'm not happy with, it moves the email down to your your phone or your laptop, right, to read it so you can read it offline, right? That could be a problem if you're moving people's social security number that are in email down to your machine, right? So on the startup task, what files are accessed when on starts? Information helps you determine when the suspect computer was last accessed, right? The important part computers might have been used in an incident, right? So you want to figure out who last used it. Because in work, you can log on people's machine, right? And the Active Directory, bring down your profile and all that. So you can kind of figure out who last used it or whose count somebody got hacked and was used last time on that, right? So there's a couple ways to do it. Modern cryptography uses number out to encrypt message. You need to decipher the message without page where's the dog books free. No, you're 100% correct. Once again, like I said, there's stuff from algorithms what you can use from a federal perspective. Um, they only let you use a couple algorithms because a lot of algorithms has been hacked. So hopefully, you can create the next unhackable algorithm, right? So there's a lot of blowfish and stuff that's been hacked that especially from a gut perspective, they tell you don't use because they've been hacked, right? So shout out to engineering cannabis, but yeah, cryptography that's a good move for the people. Even if I'm not able to join the chat every Sunday, your live reminds me to study daily. I appreciate that, man. I've been studying daily, man. AWS, it's been killing me, man. They got a lot of services in AWS. I've been what you saying. Um, Yeah, you get a ton of free books. Yeah, there's a ton of books. Shout out. There's a lot of resources out. Every time I see you, watch Roy Jones. Shout out to Roy Jones. He's a great boxer. He just boxed a little too long, man. You need to get out. I don't hear much of cryptology too. But I'm sorry, I'm not. It's not common to cryptology be we someone single response. Yeah, yeah. I'm with you, Gabe, on that. Like I said, I just use the products the government signed off on. I'm a programmer, so I know the databases inside. Java, they got approved encryption methods that's been approved by the government. I think C Sharp does too because they getting a lot of that government work. So PKI managed to shift if you do. Yeah, facts. We had a PKI at the government, so you can get non-repudiation. So you had your digital certificate for signing on your CAT card along with your email cert. So Windows 8.10, multiple platforms, like we talked about, desktop, laptop, tablets. Boot process uses a boot configuration. BCD contains bootloaders that initiate systems. Once again, you can do F8 or F12. You can get to the advanced boot option. Depending on how they set it up, sometimes you can get around the boot protocol. Right. Once again, I work for the government, so we password protect all that. Sometimes some of them got YubiKeys for some of the big systems. So when you boot it, you got to put in your YubiKey to it reads the boot off of your USB drive. Right? Into your later power on self test, initial startup, bootloader, hardware detection and configuration, kernel loading, and user log on. Right. So then in the Vista, which people don't use anymore, XP, you had a boot manager, win loader, win resume. Includes the BSD editor for modifying the boot option. The stores boot replaces the Windows XP boot INI. XP, you had the loader boot. These are just startup files that read through. Device drivers contain instructions for the OS for the hardware devices, right? So some of your hackers are going getting in there and changing this process, right? And go, you might boot off of one of their machines on the internet, or you might read off of something they loaded inside your master boot record, right? So that's where hackers are, are, are getting at a higher level, right? Because that's super hard to do from that perspective. Once again, it's just showing you the XP files. We'll flow through there since we don't do XP anymore. XP is once again an Ntfs drive. Let's get to the understanding virtual machines. We were talking about that, so let's go through. Hands-on cryptography with Python. Well, is that what you're looking for? There's use of blockchain right now, aid in building new ways to protect data in the blockchain. You need to understand cryptology. I learned it from. No, that's true. That's true. I'm sure blockchain, like you said, is going to have encryption and different encryption. Virtual machines. Maybe you run OS on another OS on existing physical computer, known as the host computer, by emulating computer hardware, like we just talked about. So somebody's got to build the host bare metal system. Then we're gonna do guest OSs on that host system, right? So that's the bag is who's ever building the base of the host system, right, from bare metal. Virtual machine is just a few files on a hard disk, must allocate space to it. Virtual machine recognizes components of a physical machine. It's loaded on. Virtual OS is limited by the physical machine's OS. Right, so this shows you a virtual machine running on the host computer desktop. Right, so when we do class, a lot of times when we go run our Kali Linux class, I might do a Kali Linux class. Let me know if y'all want me to do a Kali Linux class. I've been thinking about. We run the Kali Linux desktop, right? And which most people run Kali Linux from a Windows operating system or even a Linux operating system, but from a desktop a lot of times, right? So we load all that stuff on the desktop. Makes it a lot easier to work with too. Digital forensics virtual machines make it possible to restore a suspect's drive on your virtual machine. You and run non-standard software that suspects may have loaded. From a network forensics standpoint, you need to be aware of some potential issues, such as a virtual machine used to attack another system or a network. Right, because when you do DDoS attacks, especially those are different machines or different version machine. uh, I would pay attention to what engineering cannabis would post, books to read. They search for them on the site. Facts on engineering cannabis. Now I'm straight. I said it. Now I'm scared. I said, should I say? uh, Gabe, you probably more qualified to run a Cali class than me. I run it, man. I run it from an intro level. I mean, I teach it at a local college, but you probably more qualified than me to run the class, Gabe. I'm a compliance guy. I teach at night on the weekend, but let me know. I've been thinking about it. Because it's got Jack the Ripper. It's got just so many classic brute force attempts, Rainbow Attack, Pineapple. I mean, there's so many good programs in there. It's hard to pick which ones I would I would do the class on. I mean, there's so many classics on there. Um, It'd be the crypto first page and all the books. Yes, wish and live class would be great. Would be great to my exam. Yeah, it's just so many. There's just so many good technologies on Cali. I probably would do it more from a compliance perspective. What does that mean? Like the brute force attacks, looking at data in the air, doing reconnaissance, using Kali Linux. Because from a compliance standpoint and blue team, that's what the hackers do. They run the Kali programs to do reconnaissance, right? So I would run those programs and do the labs on those. So I got to think about that. Particularly in enterprise where they have VM servers that have like 3 or 4 NICs on them. That's a high value target for attack. Oh, facts. We got a ton of those. You're true. From a blue team perspective, like when we were talking about, if even from an AWS perspective, what do you got open up to the internet? What do you got where when they connect? In the DMZ, are you using keys? Are you give saying only my IP address could get to this EC2 box, right? From setup, but now Gabe, you right. Um, Hopefully you keep your attack surface down by not opening up a ton of things to the internet, but people clicking on stuff and writing on stuff. So common virtual machines. I'm an Oracle VM guy because I love that. I always have problems with Microsoft virtual PC. Also a VMware guy. Their stuff is good. I don't do a ton of Hyper V unless I'm working on a server. If I'm doing local stuff, I'm usually I don't know why. I guess because I did Oracle for 15 years. I do more Oracle, and actually that's what we run in classes. Oracle VM VirtualBox. For me, it seems a lot easier to set up than the other ones. VirtualBox. Consult with your instructor. That would be me in real life. That's all I had. So let me drop the link. We just chopping it up. But yeah, from what Gabe said, from a cybersecurity perspective, right? I'm only going to have certain EC2s open up to the internet. I'm only going to have a few boxes open up to the internet. Hopefully, I'm not going to have RDP connecting to my box, right? Because that's one of the easiest ways. People RDP from their house and not use the jump box. Hackers love that. That's an easy attack vector to use. So, just like I said, once again, I was just doing this quick forensic analysis. It's just something a lot of people don't talk about. Shout out to Gabe; they do that in real life. Like I said, as a professor in real life, I like to touch on different subjects that aren't common, just to let people know there's a ton of ways to we say get the bag or get new skills. Like once again, I do compliance, but I use that stuff because I got to review certain companies and certain vendors. Um, so I got to understand databases, web servers, app servers, legal. I got to check to make sure um, that if something happening in an incident response test, part of incident response test is if we get hacked, once we figure out what happened, once we get it under control, per government regulations, we have to pay to get forensics done on that. that box or that server to confirm if it got stolen and how much it got stolen. Right? They're not going to take the agency's word for it. Right? You got to have another second party or third party review that. I'm using Calendar. I think it got stuck or stuck on creating a database. So I packed. Oh, stuck. Yeah, like I said, it's not an easy load. Like I said, it's not an easy load. The companies I work for, they use VMs. They only allow you to create certain information. So hacking wasn't a big deal. Yeah, facts. But they do that because they're trying to make sure they don't get hacked on the back end, right? Um, so yeah, so that's why they do that. But now you're right. Hey, folks, go. Peace to y'all. Appreciate that. You good, CK? Glad you joined us. Okay, later, people. See you. We wrapping it up. Why were you trying to create a database on DVW? Yeah, that is now that you mention that, I kind of read through that. That is a good question. That is a good question. I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. I guess I'm just dropping it up. Uh, see, so yeah, that's a weird place to create a database. But once again, computer forensics talking about the Windows. I think tomorrow is the next Sunday. I think will be the Unix part, which is a little bit I deal with, a little more my favor. Once again, AWS gives you some light tools to start a forensics with them. If you actually got hacked, I think you can reach out to actually have AWS will help you with that if you need it. Two is Gabe said you can reach out to one of the big guys, and we have a great local firm here that does that type of work. So for smaller issues, sometimes we call them and we got them on retainer. They're a little cheaper than the big dogs, and their staff, their company we use is they're regionally known in the Midwest, so it was cool. So that's who we use. W is a damn vulnerable web app. It's practice vulnerability web. Typically, we try to access the backend database to drop web shells from what I remember. So, yeah, maybe he was putting it up to, I guess, attack it, I hope. Yeah, shout out to the FBI. They were dropping web shells on everybody in the United States. So that's going to be interesting in the future. I was arguing with my boss, who's an ex NSA agent, about the FBI jumping in on people's network to close vulnerabilities to help the United States. I told him the FBI should stay off my network, but we were going back and forth. Shout out to Big Boss. So I was supposed to interview him. I got two CISOs I'm supposed to interview on my channel. I just been so far behind and uh, just kind of moving, doing different things. So I was following steps. Wilton was like, it wasn't me, it was a class. He was just following the steps. So shout out to following this. They probably was installing it to attack it, Gabe. So to put it on there, I guess, and a certain way to leave the back end open so you can maybe JDPC and get it or something, or SQLnet and get it. Maybe they left that port open so to jump on the database. So once again, I'm gonna drop the link, or I'm about to go get me a little lunch. I gotta go for a walk. It's a little warmer in the Midwest today. I gotta start exercising, man. I'm looking like a broke Rick Ross, man. I gotta get it together. Summer's almost here, man. I gotta get it together. Man. Drop the link. So once again, just dabbing our toe in forensics. Like I said, it's something most people don't talk about. Like I said, I teach a high level class on this at community college, so I just want to bring that at a high level here just to get people thinking about something different, just to put your toe on it, because I think you got to have some time and some skills and some some certs and some talent before people let you automatically do forensics on your body. Gabe, do y'all got junior people that do forensics on your team? And the senior guys just watch them, or is all your guys senior on your team, or you just usually deal with senior guys, Gabe? Because I know we were talking about compliance. All our people on there, all our team, when it first was created, the youngest person was uh 48. Our team was old as dirt. And so I'm trying to get some content together for my channel. I'll try to jump on next one. No, that's cool, guy. Yeah, I got young people. I need to be working on mine. I ain't put any videos out last week. I was studying my AWS and working on some AWS stuff. Do y'all got any junior people on your teams for forensics when y'all go out to clients? Y'all got any junior people? Yep. Okay. Yep. We have one junior folk that ride along that pretty much just watch, but they ask a few questions. Yeah, I just don't see a lot of junior people um, in that space. Get those certs and get those skills. Facts. Facts. So that's all I have for this weekend. Shout out to the 14 people that joined me. I was surprised being so warm that I would have 14 people. Go check out everybody. Check out Struggle Security. I see him out there a lot. Um, if y'all got channels, let me know. Drop them in there, man. Engineering Cannabis, I know you got your AI and ME channel. I don't know if you want to drop it in there. I think you a mod. Let me see if you a mod, man. Drop your channels in there, man. If y'all got them. Struggle Security, if you got time, or if we could do it later. I know you're busy. I got to start making some content. I ain't doing anything this week. All my metrics are down. My watch hours, my new users are down. I didn't do any content, which is where I try to do at least 3 videos and at least 2 lives a week. So, but it's all good, man. I've been putting in that. So check out Struggle Security, put it in work. Anybody else want to drop a channel? Just let me know if you want to drop. If you've been here and I've been seeing you a lot, I'll make you a mod. I think maybe me and Struggle Security might team up and split the Cali class. He do a couple on his channel. I do a couple on my channel. Well, I'm gonna take me a nap and I'm gonna get up. Yeah, I try to do 3 videos and 2 lives a week. Your job is a little more demanding. I'm old. My job is pretty settled, so I get a little more leeway on mine. So I be at work working on work and working on working on my content. So I appreciate that Struggle Security, man. Struggle, what they call it, sponsoring the live today, sponsoring the video today was Struggle Street. Go check him out. Yeah, let's talk. We'll talk about that later. Let's split up because I think too is it'd be cool because we'd be coming from different perspectives on that from Cali because I'm more blue team. I think you're more red and offensive. Yeah, so thank everyone for all your support. Yeah, check. So yeah, we always bring something different. Go subscribe to everybody. I'm about to lay down and relax a little bit. I gotta do a little work today. Once again, studying for my AWS. Gonna start live on that. I think Thursday, probably maybe Tuesday night. I'm gonna walk through a 3-tier architecture from 2005, and I'm gonna put it on AWS. So, long story short, I put Apache Tomcat. I got the Oracle service up, but I don't think I'm connecting until I move it to a more modern. But not using the application load balancer and some of the technologies, just using the Apache technologies for the load balancing and spinning up another Tomcat if the from an elastic standpoint, what that looked like then and what that would look like now. So that's the first one I did, and that kind of getting me comfortable with AWS. Like I said, it's been about 5 years since I've actually been on Linux and spinning up VMs. Shout out to EC2. So I spun up an EC2, put Apache on it, spun up an EC2, put Tomcat on it, spun up an Oracle service in the back end. So it's all good. So we're gonna do that. You came to the right place. Struggle Security's in there. Like we just talked about, I'm doing forensics. that's a big category. You want to do application security, cloud security, GCR, cloud risk security, policies and procedure. It's a ton of that. I don't want to mess up. I just call you Steven. That's Steven. That's a big thing in there. So how do you handle self doubt? Just lab every day and work on it, Ty. Um, and once you get comfortable, and two is there's so many people out here that I can reach out to. Shout out to Gabe. My Rolodex is big. That's an old term. I know people that work at Amazon. Two of my buddies I'm gonna bring on site. I used to work at DoD 15 years ago. They're actually solution architects at Amazon, Ty. So if I get stuck, I'll call them. So if you get stuck, Ty, you reach out to me and I'll call them for you, and they owe me favors. So just really working on your craft, Ty. When you work on it, and two is and we're gonna start labbing. The labs I work on and the labs I do most of the time is it's gonna be like you're at an enterprise, like you're at work. When I was at DoD, people would actually ask me to do stuff because I already lab. One of the first jobs I had, I was one of the first person at DoD that had Apache and Tomcat connecting to an Oracle database. And inside Tomcat, if your VM went bad in Oracle, the JDBC would roll over in the cluster and connect to a different database. I actually did that in a lab time before anybody at DoD did it. So I mentioned it, and people were asking me to help. So it's just really working on your craft, and there's so many labs out there that are good too, Todd. That give you that those skills when you set it up. And like I said, we're gonna start doing that on my channel. Probably Tuesday, Thursday. It's gonna be late night, but you check the replay out. We're gonna set up 3-tier architecture in Amazon. We're gonna set up the security groups. We're gonna set up a Bastion server. We're gonna make sure only the Bastion server can connect to the web server. If you need to upgrade it, right, you wouldn't be able to connect to the web. You would need those keys, right? So we were talking about some stuff you can do at web. Once we go live, you can't connect on the web and get to the web server, right? You got to be able to go through the Bastion host, right? And we're going to show a diagram of that. So when you do that type of work, Ty, and you do those type of labs, you're ready because you know they're going to be used in real life, right? And once again, too, is once again, my Rolodex big, so I can usually call somebody. Yeah, too, go check out Tech G. He's out there. He's got I don't know what level you're at, Steven. If you're just getting started, he starts out with the basic CompTIA for free on his channel. Shout out to Master IT. Google him. He has a channel. He has a paid service. Once again, I thought about doing those, but those guys got that test base and those test questions already set up on their on their channel. Once again, Tech G and Master IT. Like I said, if you just getting started, I think those guys start. I don't know if you're in IT already and you're just trying to go from IT to cybersecurity, or you trying to get in IT, then go to cybersecurity, Stephen. So we need a little background on that. And like I said, I can shoot you to people, like I said, we recommend. Make sure you got a struggle security. He actually works in the industry. He does forensics, offensive. He does a little everything. I'm more of a harden harden the architecture. I do GRC, which is government risk. I do federal security. I worked at the Department of Defense for 10 years. I worked at a large I work at a large government agency for 10 years doing federal compliance. But like I said, there's different domains in cybersecurity, Stephen. So which one you want to get in, and which one, like I said, and how long you been in IT. Wow, good to be there. Children on holidays, so I'll be very busy. There's a lot to learn from my exam. You welcome, Will. Yeah, it is a lot, man. Especially when you get a little older, man. I don't memorize like I used to. Like, I tell people that. So, you welcome. Mm. Yeah, Ty, you should be able to, like I said, are you checking on my man? I can't even think of his name. The biggest guy in the space. Let me look him up. Oh my God. Kev Tech. You been checking out Kev Tech? Because he just actually moved to help desk and went to back in, Ty. I think I think he's a system admin now, Ty. So check on Kev Tech because he gives you all the Azure Active Directory. to get you to the next level of that. And he just switched from help desk. Do you have any content I can use to get started? I have no background. Do you have background in IT? If you look at my channel, I got a playlist out there for Cyber Security Plus. I got a playlist, and I go through there getting you ready on Security Plus. If you go to my channel in the video section, you scroll down on the first page. There's a playlist for Security Plus, and there's a playlist for AWS Practitioner. I would start off with that Security Plus on my channel. I think it's 16 videos. I need to go out there and look. So yeah, there should be a playlist out there for Security Plus. So offensive that you need to reach out to Gabe. He's on the channel. Alpha Cyber, check him out. He's on the pen testing part of that. Pen testing as part of that. Red Team. Gabe does a little more than that, but those are two guys I would reach out for that time. I think I seen you on both of their channels, by the way. I know I seen you on Alpha Cyber. I need to get him on my channel. I have a background. Oh yeah. So I would look at my Security Plus playlist. Check out Tech G and check out Master IT. We both all have Security Plus playlist. Mine's free. Tech G's free. I think they get there. Then when you're getting certified, you could buy notes from Tech G, and Master IT actually an online learning management system that's pretty reasonable. So I would check all of us out and just kind of figure out who you like best, right? People teach differently. We all focus on things because we all do different stuff. So I would check out those three sources. And two, once you get started, if you have any questions, just shoot me some at Professor Black Ops at gmail.com. And I answer basic questions. There's guys out there, that help you get jobs and stuff. Black Heights, Textual Chatter. But to get you in, I would look at those three channels. I think they're giving out, especially Security Plus, and great information. And on Tech G's channel, I got to get it together. I would look at Network Plus. He has a Network Plus thing, playlist. Networking is the basis of cybersecurity. Controlling your packets, controlling your path, and he has both of those on Tech G and Master IT. Have good classes on that. So I would check that out, Stephen. Yeah, I seen you on there. So he's that. Yep, shout out to Burp Sweep. I use that actually more as a programmer in Acropolis than I do than I actually do that as a cyber guy. Just discovered. Okay. Yeah, I think Witten said he was putting something on it. Yeah. Once again, that's all offensive. I do more blue team, more hardening. But all that stuff, once again, is part of stuff you need to understand when you're in a cybersecurity domain. The domain is so big, and there's a lot of different jobs you can get. Once again, red team is offensive, blue team is defensive, purple team is application security because most people usually attack your web server. The other part of that is most people never heard of blue team is you send out your defensive team to your organization really to get it locked down tight. First of all, usually that's kind of more of a tactical team. Something's wrong and you got to attack, right? So you sending your blue team out. But yeah, I've used Burp Suite at work a little bit. I usually more when I was programming, I was doing a web service call and somebody was setting the application protocol off. So we needed Burp Suite to look at the protocol to figure out what it was actually sending over the wire. Um, Once again, I tried to do TCP dump, but it was actually looking funny in TCP dump. I think it was something coming from his web browser before it actually got to the back end. So we actually used Burp Suite for that. So the cool thing is I've been doing this for 30 years, so I've used a lot of everything that Travelers. I use a little Burp Suite, but like I said, I use it more from a programming standpoint. Once again, figuring out where your packet's going to go. Oh yeah, I taught Wireshark at the university. Yeah, I use Wireshark a lot. I probably use Wireshark more than I use anything else. I'm gonna use Wireshark or Nmap. Um, because and I probably do that once I set up the 3 tier in Amazon. I'm gonna check it to make sure I know what ports are open and how they're moving. I'm gonna use Nmap or Wireshark so I can see what protocols are getting sent. And two is I can have it send every protocol out there, and then I can look at the logs and see what 200 came back as a handshake is good. If 200 came back and I thought it should be closed, right? That means I don't have my security group work. I don't have my security group set up, or I don't have my NACLs from my network subnet set up, right? Because right, I'm only going to open up hopefully 8080 SSH, right? 22 um, from the back end from a database, 1529 or 1526 if it's Oracle, 389 if it's a LDAP, right? So there's certain protocols that you should have open, right? The fewer protocols or ports you have open, fewer ways Gabe can attack me. No, I'm just joking. Fewer ways you can keep the bad guys from attacking you, right? So it's called attack surface. So as you have a lot of ports open, that's a large attack surface. Usually when you're doing especially a small web service, small company, especially that's connected to the internet, those should be a small number of ports open, right? So the less ports you have open is the less hackers. Shout out to Gabe, he's got those red team skills, right? So, but now you use Wireshark and Wireshark Burp Suite because a part of Burp Suite when I send an XML or even if I send a web page, do it right. In Burp Suite, I can catch it, change the parameters, right? I could try to do a SQL injection or a command injection or broken configuration if I'm trying to change something, right? You can do all that in Burp Suite to attack your website. You want to attack your website before the bad guy attacks the website, right? So I try to use different packages. So when we have that set up, right, I'm gonna try to do some testing, right? I want to make sure I'm comfortable with that setting up before I pay somebody like Gabe to do a red team engagement to check what I think I set up is secure, right? You don't want to pay somebody and they easily get hacked, right? You set them up and Gabe hacks me in 15 minutes. That's not a good look, right? So I want to do a pre-test before you have the company or the red team or the penetration tester. Shout out to Alpha Cyber and Kenny Conjo. Those guys are in the space. Yeah, before you have those guys out come out and test your application. Right? But everybody missed stuff. But like I said, you want to have your checklist and lock it down. That's all I have for today, fellas. I'm shut it down. I appreciate everybody for coming. Like I said, we got a couple more weeks of this. I just wanted to switch it up. Like I said, everybody was AWS happy. Everybody was Red Team happy. So once again, I teach at a local college, so I wanted to touch on different domains that are not normally touched. Once again, shoot me email. I've been answering emails in 4 days. I got to do a better job. I just been a little burnt out, a little tired. I got too much going on. I got to switch jobs in about 3 months. My contract in, which I knew it was coming. Shout out to them. They gave me a good leeway so I can go on out. So I've been interviewing with a few people. I've been traveling, trying to figure out if I was thinking about going to Black Heights. I was thinking about Austin, Texas has a lot of stuff, but shout out to Gabe, everybody. There's so much stuff that's remote now. So I might try to find me 2 remote jobs. Everybody's doing the 2 remote jobs, right? And do that. So we'll see. Eat raw garlic. Facts. That's helpful for me. I just got to get back on my intermittent fasting, get back consistent. Like I said, my mom passed a couple years ago, and just a lot of stuff. Just kind of been going on, throwing me off. But my mom said, "Ain't no excuses. You got to eat better." Shout out to her. That's all I got. Uh, you will see it. I'm gonna schedule. I'm gonna do a live. We're gonna step through. Um, Setting up a 3 tier old school network on AWS. So we get to touch on VPC, subnets, routes, uh, hooking your routes up to your subnets, setting up bash and hosts, making sure only your 80 and your 8080 can be seen out on the internet, setting up your NAC, showing you how to actually set up I probably walked through it on the slide, but showing how to do wget to get a Tomcat binary down inside AWS, so you can actually spin up applications that you control and not that are AWS's, right? Some AWS be software as a service, and some you'll put on EC2 and you're a manager, right? So we'll do that. Stay good. I appreciate that. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Brothers, I don't eat well. I got to eat better, man. So I got to still have them tips. I got to still have them rib tips. I got to do better. I got to do better. But yeah, we'll walk through that this week. Well, like I said, I'm gonna start labbing a little more on AWS and getting that set up. Once again, I'm studying for the my AWS certs. Even at my age, I need to get those AWS certs and because you need those qualifications. So shout out to them. Once again, I know two guys that are Kev Tech. Shout out to Kev Tech. Who was that? Taco. Check out my man Kev Tech. He's definitely in that realm. Just talking about a computer forensics at a high level, Kev Tech. I want to do something different in cybersecurity. Once you get hacked, how do you find out what got stolen, who's stolen? TPT, looking at the raw partition of a Windows drive. I know we don't do that very often because those get spinned up in the cloud. But what does it look like when you spinning them up? How do you do partitioning actually on a server, right? If you were doing a bare metal cloud, from a forensic standpoint, you might need to dig into those forensics setups to figure out if somebody stole something and stuff. Shout out to Miss Creative. We shutting it down. We shutting it down. How are you doing? I'm glad you could make it. I've been going for hour and 41. I'm old people about to get their walk on. I appreciate you joining me though. But you can check out the replay. We talking about computer forensics and what if you do if somebody hack you. That from a job perspective, it's I wouldn't call it a hidden gem, but it's definitely a domain in cybersecurity. People don't talk about the computer forensics. Like Gabe say, it's usually part of a red team perspective. Um, Once they figure out how you got hacked, then they use forensics to figure out who, where, and what they stole for you, right? So a lot of people are not familiar with that domain in cybersecurity. So I wanted to touch on it. Once again, I teach that at a local university, so I wanted to bring that to the to it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So just bring it to the to YouTube, like I said, so people can get dip their toe in different things, so they can figure out what they want to do, different domains they want to get into, different skills, so you can know you can get in different domains. And once again, Gabe chimed in because he's in that area more than me actually, so he chimed in on what they do at their location and how forensics plays it. Uh, in, in their company, right? He works at a very large company. So once again, just wrapping it up. I usually do cybersecurity news. I didn't do any this weekend. I've been studying. Sure, that's I appreciate it. I need to come to your Discord. I need to start checking out people's Discord. So I need to come in there and start answering questions with Kev Tech on the cybersecurity. So I need to jump on a couple people's Discord because I know I can add a little value in the Discord. There's just so many platforms now. I'm like, oh my God, there's a gazillion platforms. Once again, have a great Sunday. Have a great weekend. Let's get it. There's skills out here to get. There's a ton of money, just a ton of jobs. There's a 500,000 cybersecurity jobs out there, right? We know there's a few gatekeepers out there. You just got to get your skills up, get your certs up. We're going to start labbing so you can have the skills you need. Kev Tech is definitely one of the premier guys out here. So check him out and support him. So support him. He's doing great work out there. I always send people, if you have no IT background and you need to get in, I'm sending you to Tech G. I'm sending you to Kev Tech. They're going to get you on help desk. You stay there for a year, and you off and running. You can figure out if you want to be a network engineer, system admin, DBA, cybersecurity, but you got to get the basics and the fundamentals before you start trying to do all that, right? You know, you got to be Kobe Bryant. You got to work on your drop set. You just can't go out there trying to do a 360 dump. That's how you get fired. So we want to make sure you got fundamentals, and Kev Tech's I believe, at the forefront. He had his Azure his Azure series was great. Hell, I've been 30 years. I was learning stuff. I was doing a lot of Azure, but there's just a lot of good content, and he's definitely at the top of the content game. So I just want to make sure I give him his props. And I'm it, man. Professor Black Ops could go walk a couple miles. Yeah, Discord. Yeah, Discord is like Slack. She probably don't know what Slack is, can't tell. So yeah, you got a solo season. The cool thing is, I started out from the mud, man. I started out as a junior programmer, then a programmer, then a DBA, then a web admin, then I got into cybersecurity. So I had 12 years of experience before I got into cybersecurity, right? Now I advise CISOs and CIOs on computer security from a federal level, right? So the skills stack on them. So when I talk to people, right, I need to be able to talk to the DBAs. I need to be able to talk to the help desk. I need to be able to talk to, the system admins, the programmers, the developers, right? Because each one of those domains you can get hacked. There's cybersecurity for each one of those locations. So we got to make sure we in there. I knew what that. Okay, that's cool. She knew. Yeah. So yeah, I need to go check out Kev Tech, Women in Linux. I've been on a couple Discords I need to get on, a couple Slack channels I need to get on. A friend of mine started a business for athletes. He's got a Slack channel. I've been doing a little content for him, basic content. So that's it. Let me get off of here. What am I at? Oh, I'm at an hour 46. So that's cool. I try to be under 2. Once again, everybody have a great week. Reach out to me if you need anything. Once again, there's a ton of great channels. Like I said, I think Kev Tech is at the top of that list. Tech G once again, and Master IT. That's a good trifecta. They're getting you the basics in the game, and just great content. How many miles are you walking? I think I'm gonna do 2 or 3, something to just kind of ease me in, Miss Creative. I want to get out there and catch a cramp. I'm gonna be catching the Uber home. I gotta take my phone, catch an Uber, probably 2 or 3, just loosen it up. It's 55. I'm in Indiana. That's warm, but that ain't super warm. So let me get out here for the sun go down. Try to get a couple in. So that's my goal. So once again, I'm gonna see y'all on these YouTube streets. Reach out. There's a ton of great content out there. Yeah, I don't know about 10,000. I need to give me a step count. I need to give me a step. I don't think 2 miles gonna be 10,000, Kev. I think 10,000 is more like 5 or 6. I think from the step perspective. I need to get up there. So I got to start with 2 before I get to 6. so yeah, I got a nice little canal by my house. So I'm going to go out here and get it in. So once again, have a great weekend. If you need anything from me, reach out.